Hey everyone, welcome back for more Reddit stories. Today we have a couple of stories about Kevin. As usual, just sit back, relax, and enjoy. Here we go. When Kevin got an X-Acto knife. So, my teacher taught an engineering-ish class called CTEP. One year she had a student who we will all call Kevin, who was only in the class because year 1 is super easy and he just wanted to be lazy all day. He would routinely do stupid things, such as almost touching a bandsaw blade in motion on a dare. Teachers stopped that pretty quickly and banned him from Power Tool, but that's not the focus on this story. After a few months, Kevin has a crush on a girl in the class, who we will call Alexa. Kevin wanted to impress her and for some reason thought that making a paper airplane would do it. He made a shitty design and tried to get it fly. Needless to say, it didn't go very far. In his genius, he realized it was tail heavy and needed some weight in the front. While the teacher was helping another student, Kevin decided to use an X-Acto knife to weigh the front down. The blade of the knife was facing forward, essentially making an excessive dart. Armed with his new weighted airplane, he threw it right at Alexa and had written "I love you" on it. Unfortunately for Alexa, dollar store Cupid was pretty accurate and the blade got stuck next to her left eye. She had to get the blade surgically removed and has to wear glasses for the rest of her life. She ended up getting a restraining order on Kevin. The story doesn't end there, as Kevin realized right as the blade stuck that he was in serious trouble. The classroom they were in had a door leading outside and he bolted. Kevin decided to hide in a tree in the woods on the school grounds. While he was a fast climber, he had made one big mistake, wearing his orange sweatshirt while in a light forest in the middle of winter. Didn't take him very long to get caught. But the story doesn't end there either. Amazingly, Kevin was suspended for 2 weeks with possible expulsion and was stuck in his house. About a week in and Kevin was done with the food at home, he decided he wanted Doritos and knew of a nearby convenience store. Having no money, he decided to look in his dad's room and ended up finding his handgun. Armed with the same amount of brains as the prior week, he set out to the store. Kevin stole 2 bags of Doritos while holding the cashier semi at gunpoint. He grabbed the tasty tortilla chip treats and went home. Only one problem: he had worn the same bright orange sweatshirt as before. He got sentenced to a few years in jail, as well as a hefty fine and a few other things I forgot. Prom Kevin. A couple of years ago at my prom, the local Kevin of my school came out to shine. For context, this is Ireland where the drinking age is 18. Kevin wasn't the legal age to drink yet, so he got his dad to make a fake ID for him. When he showed everyone, they laughed. It was so obvious that it was fake, but he didn't see it and was sure he was going to get into the nightclub. Our school had a couple of joke awards along with Prom King and Queen, for example, Best Looking Ginger, Biggest Meme of the Year, and so on. One of these awards was Best Friend of the Year. Kevin won with another Kevin at school. This upsets our Kevin, so he smashed his glass in anger. Later, while the dance was going on, people had flasks of vodka or their drink of choice. A friend of mine pulled his out and poured 4 glasses of orange juice and vodka for us. Kevin walked over and picked up half-full glass of water that someone just left there. I asked him what he was drinking and he replied, vodka. I asked to see the glass and sniffed it. I told him there is no vodka in that. He got very defensive and told me that vodka was just alcoholic water and it didn't have a taste or smell. I laughed and told him I work in a bar and vodka does have a taste and it's just sometimes overwhelmed by whatever the mixer is. I took a sip of it and told him it's just water. But he wouldn't believe me and drank the whole thing. Later, when we got to the bus to the nightclub, he was all ready with his fake ID. To nobody's surprise, he didn't get in. We only stayed in the nightclub for a couple of hours because there was a bus to an after party. When everyone exited the nightclub, we saw Kevin drunk I put drunk in quotation marks because he was obviously faking. We egged him on and asked how he got drunk if he didn't get in. His response was that when people went into the club, they left their near-finished drinks outside. He went around drinking the last sip of everyone's drink. A classmate asked if he drank the one that was down by the trees in a Coors Light bottle. Kevin smiled and said he drank it all like a champ. The classmate put his hands in his head and said he pissed in it because of the massive line to get in. Kevin tried to backtrack by saying the one he took didn't smell like pee. When we got to the after party, there was no alcohol, so people were beginning to sober up. Not Kevin. 5 hours after we left the nightclub, so 5 hours after his last drink, he was still acting so inebriated that if he wasn't faking, he would have to be on some sort of drug. So people started messing with him by seeing what they could ask him to do. He obliged every single time. One instance was a guy asked him to interrupt two people making out, so he did, asking for a kissing threesome. I left soon after, so I didn't see the rest of the night. Another story from that Kevin included him sniffing crushed paracetamol, pretending it was cocaine, and running around the room in his geography class. It was my friend's paracetamol. A Kevin is me, aka the time I almost set my uncle's house on fire. Right off the bat, I was the Kevin in this situation, but I can look back and laugh. This happened years ago when I was visiting my Uncle Dave's house for the weekend. One thing you need to know is that Uncle Dave built his own house and decided to add a fireplace. When I come over, we would have movie nights and I would light a fire and snuggle up with two, now free, chocolate labs. For those wondering, the dogs' names are Mishu, Daisy May, and Olive. So that night was a Friday the 13th and we were watching movies as usual. I had been having a little too much fun with the fire and doing really dumb things, such as lighting paper airplanes on fire and shoveling hot embers, and burying them with ash in the metal ash bucket. Remember that. Before someone says something about Uncle Dave being responsible, he would have beat my ass if he found out and he was asleep while I was being a Kevin. At around midnight, it happened. Remember those hot embers I scooped into the ash bucket? They had a chemical reaction or something, and for some reason, smoke was coming out of that bucket. My Kevin brain thought, water plus something burning is no more fire. For some reason, I went to the kitchen sink and filled a glass of water and dumped it into the ash bucket. Big mistake. When I dumped the water into the ash, there wasn't just a little bit of smoke anymore, it began billowing black smoke like a locomotive. At that point, I haven't woken up Uncle Dave yet, and I was prancing around, mentally freaking out on what to do. I didn't need to wake him up, the smoke detector did, and he woke up to smoke everywhere and the sight of me dancing around. Uncle Dave ran for the ash bucket, and right when he chucked it outside, fire erupted out of it and would have set fire to a bunch of flammable items, setting the house on fire. With that out of the way, he was grade A pissed off at me, and he was screaming at me on what the hell I was thinking and why I didn't do anything. I remember going to bed in tears that night, but I deserved that. Now, normally this is where my story ends, but nope. I somehow made it worse on myself. When the rest of my family found out, they were all understandably livid, and my mom wanted me to apologize. I did, and in my Kevin mind, I thought smiling would help lessen my punishment. I forgot the reason, but to them, I probably looked like a little shit who was proud of myself. I was not proud. Everyone was disappointed in me. My mom did not trust me at all, and for half a year, I was grounded from anything that gave me happiness, like toys, video games, and my iPad. The worst part was having to sleep on the floor in my mom's room and listen to her snore because she didn't trust me enough to sleep in my own bed. I deserved all of that. Today, we all look back on that and laugh. I'm no longer a Kevin, and I'm now studying to become a clinical psychologist. So, those were the crazy stories about Kevin. You can give a like if you enjoyed the story to support the channel. And as always, I will see you in the next video.